I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is episode 19 of Viewer Games Analysis, where together we analyze your Carcassonne games that y'all submitted. This is a special episode, special edition devoted to games from the Hong Kong Summer Tournament sent to me by the Carcassonne community of Hong Kong. One of my favorite Carcassonne communities, no doubt. They have a lot of dedication to self-improvement, and even after achieving their historic highs, which is gaining the third place at the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships just a couple of weeks ago, they are committed to self-improvement and already are organizing another Sarma tournament in between themselves and want to discuss tricky Carcassonne positions. This episode is going to have games of different levels. So defined by the rating of our protagonist from 380 to, I think, over 700 or something. And I will spend more time on the first two games, and the third one I will be focusing just on a few key moves. So we're going to start from pre-expert to expert to master. And if you have any thoughts in the chat about the moves or any questions, anything that I don't mention, just feel free to write as much as you possibly can. I will be monitoring that. All right, so the first game, our protagonist is going to be a newer player in the Hong Kong scene, Marvus Chan, who is playing against Eugene Tse, an established master. And here, as the protagonist, we're playing red, starting normally, occupying a city. Our opponent is responding over here, which already is, it's okay, but I think sometimes there's definitely a lot of merit to going over here, actually, because it sort of starts indirectly poking at this here city, trying to create some attacks, perhaps. And also because it blocks a significant monastery spot for this area. Yeah, if anything, I slightly prefer the other move. Well, let's just see why real quick. So red is probably going to go over here, right? At least this is what I remember. This is exactly what they do. But imagine if the blue city were here. Then blue would still have, in theory, a platform for attacking red city. Or imagine if blue city were over here, then maybe red could have gone over here instead to cover up the city from the top invasion, but there would still be a platform from the bottom for blue to reinvade. So typically maybe a move, an opening response here is something that I prefer slightly more, just because, again, it starts playing a bit more directly against a red city, whereas if you start a city at the bottom, it's something a bit more detached, and it's kind of just really depending on you drawing more city tiles than your opponent. Speaking from blue's perspective here, of course. All right, so Eugene goes here. As red, we pick up a road. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The only road that's available over here, and Eugene goes the blocking approach. Does not go here to invade the road, instead starts to not only restrict the road of red, but also creates an attacking platform against this here square. Certainly a respectable move. I think if I'm Eugene and I see that I'm playing a newer player, maybe I'm trying to make moves which are a bit lower variance. Maybe probably I'm going over here with a curve and trying to invade the road. Now that I think about it, maybe I'm doing this anyway, because, you know, it does in some situations set up a very nice 6-point monastery. And when you create a platform for invasion at the start of the game, it's typically stronger to have a field platform, like with a field side up, than with the road side up, simply because there are more city plus field tiles in the deck than there are city plus road tiles in the deck. Yeah, so red continues their city. That actually makes a lot of sense. It's also actually really smart from you that you chose to go here as opposed to one to the right, because you're preventing your city from invasions, and now you're just turning it into a long-term project. You know, maybe you can get a Dorito here, a triple city here, like Dorito, triple city, Dorito, and kind of try to build this city up without exposing any connection platforms. All right. Eugene now needs to do something with this here tile. It's very, very interesting. I have several things in mind. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for now. We could go here. Oh no, we can't, because we're viewing this game from Red's perspective. But I want to explore a couple moves here. Just give me a sec. So this move definitely makes a lot of sense. This move makes a lot of sense, right? So you build up the city and you're trying to set up a blocking platform. So there's a direct threat. There is, however, a problem with that move is that typically city plus road tiles are not plentiful enough for this blocking threat to be actually serious. Like very often, what's going to happen is that Red is just going to draw, I don't know, we go here, and Red is going to draw some sort of road tile for defense. So they might not draw a tile for here straight away, but it's very easy for them to draw, I don't know, one of the many 7 curves, for example, that go over here and just protect this here square. And if we go here, we still have this invasion platform open. So Red could, in theory, go here and try to invade Blue City. So as Blue, I don't really want this, so I don't think I actually go here on the left. I think I pick between this move and this move, right? And there are advantages and disadvantages. So this move is counterintuitive, but I think it is my favorite, because it eliminates this attacking platform against the city. It does open up another attacking platform, but one which is more marginal. And it creates a more noticeable threat, because then if we get a city cap on our next turn, then we will have successfully covered up the city from invasions, and then we're just waiting for a final city cap over here to finish the city for 14 points, which is something that's going to give Blue a considerable advantage here. Hi, Agatha. So, and this is a move that I would consider. There is a problem with that move, is that sometimes our opponent can just go here with a road tile and limit this here square to 2 tiles, but it's a 75% chance in that case that we're going to get that tile, and somehow I just feel that the threat might be worth it, just to have as many threats as possible. What other moves we have? We have this one. We can go here on the left, and it sort of has the same threats of just getting a city cap, trying to cover up, but it gives away more invasion platforms, because now there's a city plus field invasion platform on the left, and there's a city plus road invasion platform on the right, and our opponent just needs to basically draw any city tile in order to invade that city. So maybe I don't like it that much. And there's also like a third weird move, just going over here and starting a new city. I think it's not great, because we don't want to really give a point to our opponent. There's also this move, how we can start a new city on the left and actually expose this here square to an attack, which I think could be quite nice, but it comes as a disadvantage because we also give our opponent yet another invasion or even blocking platform against our city. So I would probably just go over here, but again, it's a bit of a matter of taste, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend that approach always, because sometimes you do get blocked here. But let's see what Eugene here did. Actually, I didn't quite remember. Oh, Eugene did the other move. Yeah, that also makes a lot of sense. Then here, if I'm red, I could be going over here. This move is also perfectly acceptable, trying to now block Blue City and trying to play against those threats. But I think directly continuing the road, yeah, it's also just makes so much sense. because it's trying to invade both your opponent's cities. Sorry, it's trying to create an additional square to invade Blue's city, and I think it's quite good. Eugene starts a monastery. We now absolutely have to invade Blue's city, which we do. Eugene now needs to decide whether the city is worth re-invading, and the answer to that, I think, is not. But what do you do instead? Because this is a shielded tile, I want to be very voracious about what we do with it. I ideally want to use shielded tiles for unshared, completable cities. Yes, and then maybe unshared, completed rather than completable. And so if I'm Eugene, I just get out of the way. Maybe I'm just going over here and starting a new city like that, pointing a meeple outwards. Or maybe even I am going here and starting a city like that, strange though it may seem. But Eugene goes a different approach. Eugene decides to start a larger city fight, which I don't think is all the rage, just because it's... I don't know. It seems to be a little bit too ambitious to succeed, and I would do this with a shieldless tile. That makes complete sense. But because you're still gonna need, Blue's gonna still need 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles to finish the city at a minimum, Red is gonna have plenty of time to reinvade the city, and in fact, Red already has a tile to reinvade the city. But here comes a subtle moment of the game. If I'm Red, I'm probably not invading the city right now. First of all, just because it's a shield. And second, because I have a very good use over here. Because I can continue my road at the top. I can continue my city at the top. And also, I can indirectly kind of prolong my road. I can, in theory, in some scenarios, use this road end, like to get a curve and then another curve and try to curve upwards and finish my road that way. And then I can try continue keeping score with Doritos, with city caps like this, trying to build up the city and complete it, and only swoop in the bottom city when it's a bit closer to completion, when the threat is a bit more imminent. Hi Devaka, hi Nepamai, hi your son. Another approach is I want to do this, is this. It is a bit more interesting. It does continue the road in a more direct way. Like I think it's just a great way to secure the road. You can have a crossroads here. You can have a curve here. The disadvantage of that move is that it turns the city into an even long-term project, because now realistically we need 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles at the very least, but in most scenarios 5 tiles to complete the city. Also, 4 out of the 8 big city tiles are already out. Well, look at them. 4 of them are on the board over here. So ideally we want to get like more of those triple city tiles as building blocks, and we're just not going to get them realistically. So maybe between these two moves, my move is favorite. This is my slight favorite, but this is also very, very good for the sake of road. Now, what you did makes a lot of sense. It's a very, very natural move to play. Just, okay, you see a threat, you neutralize it. And, you know, your opponent puts another meeple into the city, and you put a meeple in another city. And it's a very natural thing to do, but sometimes in Carcassonne, if you see a threat that your opponent makes, before reacting to the threat, you need to assess the severity of the threat. And because there's still 1, 2, 3, there's still at least 4 tiles that your opponent needs to complete the city, it is reasonably safe to try to use this tile more efficiently, and then maybe reinvade the city with a different tile, or maybe even have some sort of runout that allows you to block your opponent's city instead of invading it. Just because adding this shielded tile to the city, like the triple city tile, it's really, really good for the value of the city. In fact, the triple city tile is the best thing that you can hope for here. Because imagine if you instead get one of the many triangle tiles. Well, okay, then you go here. But then this exposes an attacking platform for your opponent to invade your city. So the triple city tile is in fact how do you say this, a bingo or something like this. It's like a very nice draw from the board because it allows you to continue the city with 2 extra points from the shield and also do it in such a way that prevents your opponent from invading. So yeah, so this move is like completely fine that you played, except there were just like other moves that could have been played. Yeah, you start attacking your opponent's city. As you see, Eugene kind of got really into it, and we now have the first points of the board. And the next move from you, I think, is really strong. Yeah, so you start a new city in such a way that limits this connection square a little bit, prevents Eugene from invading, and also limits the capacity of this here city. Eugene does immediately connect, but then this in theory gives you some chance to try and connect yourself. And I'm really not sure what to do here as red. I think as red we choose between one of 2 moves. Either we wait patiently and decide to try and invade this city, in which case probably the best move is just to go... what's happening? Okay, for some reason I can't really... Oh, well, anyway, yeah, I don't know why you just couldn't click. Yeah, so you could either go over here and continue your city at the top, and yeah, you do expose a connection platform, but it's a short-term risk that you might just kind of try and run away with it. It's also indirectly continues your road. Or you do this, because the good thing that this city completion does is it gets your meeple back, and you also are making your opponent's city here extremely vulnerable. Like with a simple curve, you're going to restrict it to 2 tiles, and with 1 road tile, you're going to block that meeple completely. And this is something that I'm sure you're going to try and do. Okay, so far, so good. I mean, all like very reasonable, strong moves. There's just one move of the city invasion, which I think could have been a little bit delayed, but even that was very reasonable. But this time, we're going to see the first, I think, true first mistake of the game from you. So when I'm looking at this tile, I'm recognizing that it's a bit awkward to use it to start new cities. But if I do start, yeah, because let's say if I go here and start a new city, my opponent can take a Dorito tile and bend me in here, and suddenly I need a triple city with a road here and a triple city with a road here. There's only 2 of those remaining in the deck, so that's a, what, 25% chance of invading, which is not great for us. Yeah, then, I don't know. So if we start a new city over here, it's okay. I think it's a bit safer, but our opponent could still use some sort of a big tile to make sure that we are a bit restricted to this square, and now we need one of the 2 remaining starting tiles. One of these 2 guys, so this is also not ideal. Also, we know that in the future we want to go here, so we will be restricting our opponent's city, and with that we will be restricting our own. So this position of a new city is a bit better, and I think it would have been an okay move to play that, but it's slightly suboptimal. And I'm sure that you noticed that these 2 placements are slightly suboptimal. That's why you went for the 3rd green square over here. But this move is the one that I think just ultimately lost you the game. Well, sorry for the spoilers here, but I assume, you know, if you've seen enough of these episodes, you know that most of the games that we analyze are losses from the protagonist. Not all of the games. So what are the problems with this move? The main problem is A, we're adding a point to our opponent's monastery, and B, most importantly, we are putting ourselves in a position where we have 2 of our meeples controlled by our opponent's monastery. By 1 meeple of our opponent. What does it mean when 1 meeple controls another? When 1 meeple controls another, it means that there are different meeples from different sides on different features that need shared squared filled. For example, there are 3 shared squares. This square is needed for the red road and blue monastery. This square is needed for red city and blue monastery. And this square is needed for the red city and blue monastery. And a control situation is one. So player A controls player B if it is player's B incentive. If player B has the incentive or the need to fill in the shared square, because then player B will have to spend the tiles on building shared features, and player A will be freeloading. And in this case, this just looks perfect for blue, because blue doesn't have to touch this monastery at all. If none of these squares are filled, well, this means that blue will be happy with this 6-point monastery, and red is going to have 2 meeples permanently trapped, right? Because how else are you going to get your meeples back if you're not going to get your squares filled? And if red somehow successfully builds up his cities and roads and recovers the meeples, well, then this will automatically complete Eugene's monastery, and this is not something that we want to do. And also think about this. When you're starting a new city, let's say here, right? You want to ultimately get 2 city caps and score 8 points for it. But here, you score 8 points, even if you successfully complete it. But you give your opponent 3 points for the monastery. So you only net 5 points, even if in your most successful scenario. And you spend 3 tiles, that's 3 pretty good tiles, to get 5 points, which is less than a normal city, because a normal city is 2 points per tile. So you will end up getting less than 2 points per tile, I think. 1.67 technically, 1 2/3 of a point per tile. Yeah, and then you just don't benefit as much. So there is also like additional problems that our opponent could get some sort of a big tile and then block the square entirely, in which case we don't even get to finish that city. So there are all kinds of problems, and we will see those problems later in the game. But a move that I think I would consider and probably play is just this one. Just add the points to the city, which again looks a little bit dangerous, and yes it is, because it's very vulnerable to blocks and invasions. But, you know, if our opponents invade, maybe we can re-invade, sometimes we can block the invasion, sometimes if our opponent blocks, we can just successfully cover up and maybe even draw one of the dagger tiles. And also now, because my opponent's meeple is vulnerable here, I think I can think about winning strategies with which I don't even mind if our city gets blocked. So imagine this, we just get 2 extra points over here, and our opponent needs to spend resources on blocking this city, and let's say he ultimately succeeds. But then we go here, and we block this here little guy, this here little guy blocked for 1 point, our blocked city is like worth at least 7, but realistically 10. We connect over here, we equalize, and then we're just ahead a little bit by virtue of, as a result of our opponent just having 1 blocked meeple over here. And if our opponent does recover a meeple here successfully, this means that they have less time to try and block or invade, which means that sometimes we even try to build up and complete the city. Again, like, there can be plenty of arguments against that move, but it's something that you could just try once in a while in your games and see if it works or not, or see how often it works. But yeah, but I think between the 3 potential placements of starting a new city, this is the one which is by far the most damaging, and we'll see how you try to climb out of that, but kind of like unsuccessfully. Right, also, by the way, case in point, like you see, you draw your next tile. Your opponent, of course, quite wisely now starts to block these here squares because it's not in their interest to finish, for you to finish the city. And then, but imagine if they get this curve. So you would have gotten this, like your opponent gets this to block you. Now you get the Dorito to go here. And now suddenly you're threatening to cover up your city, and maybe even get one of the 2 tiles that fit into this square, and like have a very serious, potentially game-winning threat. So yeah, but anyway, with this Dorito, we got to continue to play. I think a natural move is something like this, just continuing your city. This is also possible, and actually might even be like a bit trickier. This is also possible. I think you should really think about a move like this too, trying to prevent your city from getting blocked too easily, but it's a bit meh. Yeah, no like super good solutions. And you end up making the natural move, which makes the most sense. Your opponent gets a meeple back and gets the farmer. And now you again make a reasonable move, but one which I perceive to be a significant strategic mistake. So, and also a strategic mistake rather than tactical. If I look at this position, I see we're a little bit behind. We're a meeple behind and we're 7 points behind, but we do have this city threat with which we can work, and maybe we can build up something over here. Maybe we can free up one of those features that we were talking about. And so the move that I would play here, as counterintuitive as it is, I would just go here and basically concede that my meeple here is not perfectly placed. Maybe I would try later to draw 2 rose tiles, 2 of these here, barbed wired guys, and try to kind of complete the city with some extra value. And yes, complete my opponent's monastery as a result, but try to get those additional city points. But most importantly, I'm just trying to get my road meeple out of trouble. There's still 6 crossroads, so we can draw crossroads here. Or even better, we can draw a rose tile over here and a curve over here and trying to like build the road over here efficiently. We do need a meeple back quite a bit, and I think that's going to work just fine. But instead, I think you could have made this instinctive reactive move. So your opponent drops a farmer, where you say, well, I'm going to drop a farmer too. And tactically, it works just fine. You know, your opponent has a 6-point farm, and you also have a 6-point farm. If they merge, you're going to have a 9-point farm. But strategically, what just happened? You placed a farmer here permanently. It ain't going to come back because that's what farmers are like. And just give me 3 seconds. And then you're going to have 1 meeple, if not for the rest of the game, for a very long time at the very least. But the thing with having only 1 meeple as opposed to 2, it sometimes forces you to forego scoring opportunities. It sometimes forgoes you to spend your last meeple to, I don't know, build a 4-point city or a 4-point road, which also makes you forego quick points from other domains. For example, if you place your last meeple to try and score a 4-point road like this, I know you get a city cap, and you can't use the city cap to score 4 points for the city somewhere else, and so you lose points for that. So think about this. For this here farm, you're gaining only 9 points, because this here farm is also quite small and very restricted. So it's not going to progress beyond 9 points anytime soon. So take those 9 points and subtract what you potentially are going to be losing from your point value for your long-term meeple disadvantages that you're going to have. It probably comes down, I mean, to maybe even more than 9 points. So this move, I think, loses you more points than it wins you points. And also, of course, this was just a good tile to place over here. Yeah, so your opponent keeps restricting you. You now start a new city at the top, which is a good idea. Oh yeah, you don't start a new city at the top, which, well, 2 things about it. First of all, it's a good call, because you have only 1 meeple left and you're going to be sparing with this meeple. But it also illustrates that you're already going to be losing some value from not having a meeple here. Because there is a potential chance that blue is just going to take, you know, something, 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 and like snatch these city caps in the next couple of moves. Blue, of course, can't do that. They're completely forced to invade. Still was a completely noble and laudable effort to try and build that up, to try and create that threat. Now you have a monastery tile, and with only one meeple in hand, quick point opportunities are few and far between, so it probably goes between scoring these here 3 points and these here 3 points. You could also go here, actually, probably without the meeple. Yeah, with the meeple it seems to be a little bit too dangerous and reckless, and just try to get your road out, but I don't think that this is the route that you're going to take. Yeah, this move makes sense, taking the 3 points. But actually, maybe I would take the 3 points here. No, it's good, it's good. These 3 points are good. Then your opponent... Yeah, your opponent tries to block you now. They are trying to get a triangle tile and block you here and leave the square completely blocked. So that's why now what I would do, I would not take quick points upstairs. I would just do this. I will try to do everything in my power to try to protect at least one of my meeples. And in this position, we're actually doing not so badly. We still have 4 tiles remaining that can be used here to continue our city. If we get the starting tile, we get 8 points for the city plus 3 points for the road. We get 11 for our scoreboard. We get a meeple back. The game still goes on. There's still one road monastery that goes over here, and we could win the coin flip and even get those points additionally. Or sometimes if we win the coin flip, we don't go here and we just, I don't know, take 3 points somewhere, because there might be a reason that we wouldn't want our opponent to get this monastery meeple back. But the important thing is that our opponent is creating a threat, and this threat is actually severe, and we have to react to that threat. So I think this move was quite necessary. You do take 4 points upstairs, which again makes sense, but I think we're really going to start trying saving those meeples. Yeah, your opponent is trying to get a meeple back and also create a threat against that shared square. Here, probably you're better off continuing your road and trying to finish in a different way, trying to get like something here and something here and something here. Yeah, I think you need to do this. You know why? Because if you don't do this, then you have only one tile that finishes the road. If you go here, then you already increase this to 2 tiles. You already increase this to these 2 guys. I'm not counting in the triple city tiles, because the triple city tiles you already need in this area. So you're really going to need to start trying to save your meeples. Yeah, instead you sort of make a move which doesn't really do all that much. It does actually. It eliminates a potential field connection platform here that your opponent can use. But let's see. Another move from your opponent. Again, here, I'm either going here, but maybe I'm even going here, trying to save my city. Yeah, I think I want to save that city still. And maybe try to get a city cap at the top and try to just do everything in my power to get a meeple back. Did you do that? No, I think you... Yeah, kind of just like discarded the tile. And look at Eugene. He didn't even bother taking the 3 points. He instead just went here and blocked your meeple here completely. So now you're on a quest to recover your road meeple as best you can, which is also easier said than done, but let's see if we can try that. Yeah, 3 points is what the doctor ordered. Hi, Sunny. Eugene's blocking scoring opportunities here. You just really don't have that much money. Yeah, honestly, just, you know what? That's fine. Just getting 2 extra points is reasonable. And even though your opponent blocks you, at the very least, you get some compensation because this here guy is only scoring 2. This here blocked guy is scoring 7, so that's 5 extra. Then you have this road. You know, you're still like not doing that badly. I mean, ideally you want to draw this tile, but for now, quick points are going to suffice. We'll go through the second half of the game rather quickly, as kind of most of the decisive events happen. That's a great move from you. You see, you're kind of forced to do this sort of thing, but then as a result, yeah, well, and even we get a bit fortunate with that, actually. Eugene goes here. Probably you wanna, yeah, you wanna start blocking him. That's a good idea. And unfortunately for you, Eugene gets the last triple city tile, so you're gonna be losing in this here mini battle here. Anyway, a bit unfortunate, but that only would have made a difference of like 4 points, actually. Yeah, because your blocked meeples score 4, blue's blocked meeples score 8, so it's just a 4-point tile. It's not a game winner or a game loser. So yeah, so if anything, it's more annoying that your opponent just goes here and scores for the road. If I am you, I'm, yeah, doing something exactly like you did. That's, I think it's quite smart. If anything, I would actually change the orientation. I would maybe even point up to have more flexibility for myself, just because my opponent is recovering here from this potential city attack, right? So he'll be incentivized to finish the city as soon as possible with any city cap. So he'll be more likely to do that than take any empty city cap that you leave for him. So think of this empty city cap that maybe if you go here, then you will have the opportunity to use city plus road tiles, such as the starting tile, for scoring here. And city plus field tiles you can already use to pick off this city cap. Yeah, so I think when you're a bit behind, it's just a bit more precise to try and pick up city caps in this way. Yeah, Eugene just keeps munching on points, but so do you. And honestly, like, the scoreboard already doesn't look all that bad. Yeah, this move makes some sense. It prevents you from expanding your city a little bit. Now, I think there is one other move that you can play, but it's very, very tricky to notice in real time, and especially if you only have this much experience, right? I'm just, like, I really just judging based on the rating. So if you're tracking tiles well, and it's very easy for us to see. It's very easy for us to see. We can see that there's no Dorito left, because this one Dorito here, the way this app works, is the one that you have in hand. In fact, the only tile that is Dorito-like is this triple city. So this means that you now have an opportunity to go here. And this would almost permanently block this meeple. The only way Eugene can complete the city is getting a tile like this, and then like this, and then like this. So it's a very elaborate sequence. And then you'll be able to go here and try to block this here blue guy. And if you successfully block this blue guy, then you, I think, can still actually win this game. So let's just do a quick count. So we are ahead 13 points on the scoreboard as a result of quick points. Our opponent has 7 points of the monastery, but we have 8 points on the road, so this is +1, +2 for this here little bit here, that's +3, -1 for this is +2. Our opponent has 7 here, and we have 7 here, that is equal. And as talked before, our opponent has 8 here, and we have 2 here, so this is 4 points that we're losing. So actually, if we manage to prevent our opponents from completing the city, then we're doing great. We're ahead, what, like 7 points? Let me just take it again. 13, 15, 17, 13, 12. No, we're like up like 12. This is really, really a lot. Yeah, so I think this is actually the mistake, but well, I wonder if we can call it the mistake. So it's just it's a very easy move to see if you know the remaining tiles. It's a more difficult move to see if you don't know the remaining tiles. So how could you find this move if maybe you're still not used to tile tracking? If you're short on time, one thing that you can see is, like, without counting, there's just kind of a lot of those triangle-shaped tiles on the board. Like, just look at this. There are 5 triangles here, and like that 2 here already. So there's like 7 triangles in this area. And just look at them, you just see like the board is very clunky. There's so many big city tiles, then probably the fewer of them in the deck. And also, even if there are more of them in the deck, sometimes this move also kind of works, because then maybe your opponent goes here with a city cap, tries to cover up, then you go here, 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 and then like try to block the square from all sides. But the point is, which you I think need to recognize, yeah, pretty much at any level here, if you're in this position, is that if you restrict your opponent's meeple, if you block your opponent's meeple and prevent it from meeple recovery, I think you have significantly higher chances of winning. And then that you just gotta do something with the square. Like, honestly, even if you played like this, that also it was a move that would have made sense. But yeah, this I think was your potential game winner. But instead you discard a tile, which is just not something that you normally want to do, just because it doesn't do anything. Okay, give me 15 seconds. And we're back. Eugene now successfully finishes the city, and now it's already a big difference, unfortunately. So his advantage, so our advantage now shrunk from 12 points to 9, and Eugene has a meeple to spare, which actually makes it still, like, it's not losing, it's an equalish position, where we have a slight disadvantage, just because, like, Eugene can, do more things with this meeple. Yeah, we do this, makes sense. Is Eugene gonna start a new monastery? This is exactly the kind of thing that they can do. So they can maybe try and build up this monastery and get some meeples back, but still, this game is kind of like winnable for us. And I think, yeah, this the move also, like, you just go on the farm way too prematurely. How do you tell that you're doing it prematurely? Well, you just have to ask yourself well, 3 questions. How valuable is this farm? How likely it is that my opponent is going to take away this farm if I don't go there myself? And what other scoring opportunities are there? So the answer to the last question is there are quite a few. And again, this is only like if we do tile tracking, but we see 4 crossroads and we see 5 city caps. That's quite a lot. That's a lot of scoring potential still in the deck. And by dropping our last meeple there forever with no chance of recovery, we're saying no to all these scoring opportunities. And that's the big issue here. Well, the answer to the other questions, the field is worth 6 points. So it's still, like, it's not that huge. And we know that if our opponent drops a farmer, well, then they forego the scoring opportunities that we can have with the crossroads and city caps. And I know that you might feel that the field is worth 9, but we can see that Eugene is now going to quite wisely block this here square, so there is now nothing that remains to fit here. Oh no, there's still the road monastery, of course. Yeah, and you see, you draw a crossroads, and you would have been able to score 3 points, but we lose 3 points, or at least we lose 2 points, let's be a bit more precise. Then your opponent also has the luxury, because they know that they have a meeple in hand and you don't, so they don't have to risk a meeple, they don't have to invest a meeple. They can just drop a city cap out in the open, and they know that you don't have a meeple, so you can't do this. You can't just go here and finish the city because, well, you don't have any meeples, so you're not going to score anything. So instead you make Ah, this move is understandable because it sort of seems that you're saving the field's connection. And again, that makes a lot of sense. We just happen to know the tile counts. We just happen to know that that the curves are no longer there. But because there are 9 curves in the deck, like, it's very reasonable to be a bit imprecise with the counting, or maybe to not have time to do proper counting or tile tracking at all. So this is a move which is very, very reasonable if you think that there is actually a city cap available. Yeah, and just we can see, so Eugene scored 4 quick points already. Again, we get another crossroads, so we forego 2 more points. Eugene gets more stuff. Another 4 quick points that they can get away with. That, by the way, was a marvelous move from you. That was a really good move, really strong move, trying to block this here city cap. Quite successful. At least you saved yourself on spread point. It forced Eugene to score 3 points for the road instead of 4 points for the city, because this tile no longer fit over here. So I definitely appreciate you fighting hard until the end. And the last move also, I think, really, really strong that you found it. That's really amazing. What this move does is that it prevents your opponent going over here on the 6-point farm, and they end up going on a 3-point road instead. Yeah, so that's already a significant 3-point difference. But with that last farmer, so you scored 6 points with the last meeple, and your opponent scored 3 here, plus 3 here, that's 6, plus 4 here, that's 10, and then plus 4 here, that is 14, provided that I didn't miss anything. So your opponent scored 8 points more compared to you with their last meeple, and I think this is what ultimately ended up deciding the game. So several key moments. Okay, well, maybe not quite as decisive. I forgot what the score was. Oh yeah, okay, 10 points is the difference. So, oh no, 6 points is the difference. Sorry, I just can't count at all. Which actually means that it's that difference in the last meeple scoring, because you scored 6 and your opponent scored 14 with the last meeple. So they, with their last meeple, they outscored you by 8. And that's what ended up winning the game for them. Yeah. So a lot of very complicated moments here. Very interesting situation with this here shared city. I think one move which put you in a difficult position was just this one, starting a new city over here. Then some nice scoring opportunities, like very calculated risks of placing your last meeple just to try and score for the 4-point road, which was justified, but several missed opportunities. And the missed opportunities were mainly, I think, due to tile tracking, which, again, like at this stage, for somebody who's rated like 380, it's maybe tile tracking is not, like, shouldn't really be the main concern. So it's fine to make moves just based on positional principles, and while with tile tracking, you just do like bits and pieces where you can. That would be my main advice. Yeah, and well, then the last meeple placement, I think, whilst well-intentioned, was just like a tad too impatient, and then allowed Eugene just get a lot of quick scoring opportunities that ended up making a difference. That said, also Eugene did have quite some good draws towards the end. 1, 2, 3 city caps plus the road monastery. Yeah, that says quite a bit of scoring power no matter what. But then with your city caps, you would have also scored just a little bit more before dropping a farmer yourself. So perhaps that was a possibility. But also, now that I think about this, if Eugene maybe just draws a little bit fewer scoring tiles, and if you manage to get some sort of a road tile that expands your farm to 9 rather than 6, to get this here extra tile, maybe then you're going to be doing just fine. So that last farmer is like, it's not necessarily a game losing move. I think it's like a tad too impatient, but I can understand. I can understand it quite well, I think. Alrighty, so do let me know in the comments if you have any other questions or pieces of feedback about this game. I will take a break for, let's say, 4 minutes. I'm going to meet you there at 10:55 UTC with our second game. We are back with our second game of the 3. This time our protagonist is Yao Yu-chan, another player hitherto unfeatured on this channel, playing against an established Hong Konger, Eastung. So here our protagonist is going to be yellow, and our opponent's going to be red. Yeah, so yellow is starting a bit unorthodox way. Like the more standard move is to point the curve up. This has been covered quite a lot in the literature. Anyway, Eastung picks up new city. We start a new city by ourselves. Yeah, also without a meeple, complete a reasonable move. Here, okay, this is very interesting now. So red is now trying to attack us. Fundamentally, we have a choice between 3 moves. There's this move, which is, I think, is quite reasonable. We continue our road, we attack our opponent's city. It's kind of just keeping things equal. There's this move, which is also very reasonable. We indirectly continue our road. We start a new city, of course. And then, because our opponent's square is restricted but ours isn't, we have a slightly higher chance of filling this square before our opponent. And of course, there's this move, which is starting a new city and also going for the direct block. I do quite like it. It's very aggressive. Sometimes we get like counter blocked here as a response, but honestly, I'm happy as long as you choose any of the 3. Yeah, this move makes a lot of sense. You go here, then you invade the city, which makes a lot of sense. Your opponent re-invades. You continue building up your bottom city, preventing it from being threatened. That's, again, makes a lot of sense. Now, this here tile, I forgot how you went. I hope that you go here. Yeah, okay, very good. You're building up your city, and also you're not letting red invade over here. So far, everything makes a lot of sense. They get the first points on the scoreboard, and this is now where it gets interesting. So the first move that I want to exclude, I don't really want to go over here. Because if I'm going over here, I'm only helping my opponent build up the city, which is currently, well, it's just potentially under their control. I don't want to go here either because it restricts my city more than it helps myself. So really just 2 points on the left is the best move, which is what you end up doing. Yeah, your opponent gets quite a good tile for invasion, and this is an interesting tile. I think my first instinct is to maybe go here and try to fight for this city from this here angle. But then I look at these here 4 tiles, so 4 out of the 8 big tiles have gone out, and that's not great. So maybe a move here actually does make some sense. One thing that you do need to know, though, is when it comes to city invasions, road invasions, and field invasions, especially city, especially field, whenever there's a situation of 2 meeples per player, let's say we have player A and we have player B. If we have configuration of A, B, B, then the chances are quite equal. But if we have the configuration of AB, AB, then also the chances are quite equal for both sides. It sort of depends on a lot of things. But if we have the configuration of A, B, B, A, then the chances are actually typically much, much better for player B, because players 2 meeples are already connected. So player B is never going to be in a situation where he will find themselves in a minority on a feature. Because let's say if we look at ABBA, like there are potential chance of splitting here. So ABB could become one feature and A is going to be separate and B has the majority here, or BBA. This is also the opportunity, right? So there are two potentially negative scenarios where player B, where the meeples of player B take majority on some feature, whether it's a city or a field, over the player A. And here, well, we can see that player A is yellow and player B is red, because there's this here potential situation, how these here meeples end up together and this square gets becomes cut off, or another more likely situation where this gets cut off and these here two end up together. So generally you want to avoid such geometrical configurations if you want to fight for certain things. And then you want to, if you can, try to go for the other two configurations. For example, in the case of AABB, both players have equal risk. So let's say if there's some sort of block in this here area, then just both players have their own separate features and they both score points. If there's block in this here area, then ABB gets grouped together, and so B gets the majority over A. But there's also the same possibility of AAB being grouped together, where A has a majority over B. And same here with this configuration, ABA, A has the majority, or BAB, B has the majority, or split here, nobody has the majority. But ABBA is the one configuration where any outcome where all four meeples don't come together actually is going to going to favor player B rather than player A. These are just the consequences of geometry there. I don't think this is specific to Carcassonne. It's probably true in other games and generally in life. Yeah, do let me know if this makes sense. I hope this does. Just a reminder in this here explanations, player A is the meeple of the first player, B is the meeple of the second player, and in this situation, A is yellow and B is red. Yeah, so I would probably want to avoid a situation like this, but if I don't have a choice, well then, whatever. Sometimes you still have to go for those suboptimal situations, but maybe as yellow, I would probably still do it. I just wouldn't be that happy about it. All right, that was a great move from yellow, by the way, going here, blocking the monastery spot. I might have considered just starting a new row, but yours move was tighter, and it leads to this here monastery placement from red, which makes quite a bit of sense. It is only 2 points, but it is 1 point more than this here yellow meeple. And if you go here, 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 you might block some things. You might end up with 3 blocked meeples as opposed to yellow's 2 blocked meeples. But yellow's blocked meeple is going to score 1 point, and you're going to score loads here and loads here, and it will be totally justified in getting 1 more meeple block than your opponent. Yellow now has, I think, a very strong move. You just have to, as yellow, you just have to find this move, I think. You start a new city, you indirectly continue your road in a very safe way, because regardless of how you restrict the square, there are going to be, well, at least 2 tiles which fit over here. And then you're also threatening, in some situations, to get a triple city and a Dorito tile. This is wonderful. Anything else that is going to be played is just going to be a bit worse. You play this move, which is... it's considerably worse, unfortunately. You probably just missed the idea. Generally, if you see specifically the rose tile, very often there is an opportunity to finish your road and start a new city, or indirectly finish your road and start a new city, and this is typically how you want to use it. You want to use city plus road tiles. You want to take advantage of both the city and the road segment, and also crossroads are more valuable than the regular road tiles. They're pretty much almost twice as much, worth in equity, according to my estimation, as regular rose tiles. So if you can get those onto your road and occupy the city, then it's golden. And then also you can see that here you took 2 points instead of 3 as well. It's just overly cautious, and I think ultimately that also just ends up decreasing your winning chances a little bit. Give me 10 seconds. Alrighty, so red scores quick points, I presume. You really don't have that much of a choice other than starting a new city on the right, yeah? Okay, if you're gonna do stuff like this, you really gotta play some meeple here. Because imagine if your opponent has a city cap. Well, they just go here, and you give them an 8-point city for nothing. No, you really gotta use a city there. East Tung takes 4 points for the road, as they should, and now finally you do claim the city. But you see, had you placed a meeple in this here area before, then you would have had already a meeple here as well, and there would be no risk of your opponent getting a city cap and getting 4 quick points. Yeah, I know that the extended tile is not ideal for starting new cities, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Especially with 3 meeples at hand, 50 tiles left to go, like, you'll be fine. Alright, so your opponent finishes a shared city, then you go here. In terms of farmer dropping, you could really go either way. You chose to do it. I think I'm not going to go into the specifics too much. I probably would have still waited a little bit, but it's reasonable either way. Like, players are going to do quite different things depending on which player you ask. So your opponent starts an 8-point city, and now we're gonna need to talk about prioritization. I know it's very tempting to go here and get yourself this city into this meeple into the city. And it's also tempting to go here as well, although it shouldn't be. But your opponent has a threat of completing an 8-point city and getting a meeple back. You cannot allow him to do that. This is our only move. It doesn't matter that this tile fits for our city connections. Let's just not do the city connections. Like, we just cannot allow our opponent to get away with an 8-pointer. This move also quite easily allows them a meeple, I think, a meeple back. I think it's quite wonderful if we can manage to stop them. Instead you go here, which again is understandable, but you know, it's not great, because your opponent could just have a city cap there, they get 8 points and a meeple back, now they're up 14 points on the scoreboard and a meeple. It's just really not good. And also, the reason I want to delay this move is because sometimes just going here is not in your interest, and it also ultimately comes down to this ABBA configuration. The problem with the ABBA configuration is that it is incumbent upon A to make both of these connection moves to spend tiles, well, here and here. But then here's what's going to happen. If you do the first connection and you group these, then you kind of even more forced to do the second connection, because your opponents can now disrupt this, cover you up here, and then they can enjoy the majority. And so then as soon as you do this first connection, it sort of forces you to do the second connection even more. But let's say if you don't do it, well, if you don't do it, your opponent can just kind of wait until until the end of the game. Then they can do this, perhaps when there are no longer any more tiles to connect this here meeple, and they end up with a majority on the feature that way. So that's the problem with this geometrical ABBA configuration, is that the player B is just like always in control, no matter how the tiles are drawn. Again, I think this is the type of geometry I'd love to make a separate video about, but there's so many other projects in the pipeline, then probably this episode of game analysis is going to have to suffice. So yeah, if you didn't know about this principle, or if you hadn't thought about this principle before, then, you know, go and tell your friends. And of course, like, you know, meeple the like button and all that. That would be quite helpful, very, very helpful for the algorithm, the UIQ, beyond what you can imagine. Anyway, so they build up their monastery, restricting a little bit. Now we also see with this move the problems of dropping a farmer too early, because the highest scoring move on the board is to go here and to score 3 points for this road, but this would completely unbox this farmer for 6 points, and ideally we want this farmer to be developed. Ideally we want to get a couple of curves. We want to score a 4-point road over here. Let me just move this out of the way. We want to score a 4-point road over here, and we want to touch this here castle. We maybe want to go into this direction as well, and like place a monastery here and touch this here castle, and so on. And so we're almost kind of forced into doing something like this, and yeah, we did this, but also even that is not that great. So finally we completed our city connections. Finally, we're not having any threats. We're not having any risk of losing, how do you say this? Of losing a mini battle in the cities. But at what cost? Here, first of all, we lost considerable equity by not preventing our opponent from completing a city. And we were just extremely fortunate that our opponent did not draw one of the 13 remaining city caps or something like this in a couple of moves. Then with this here tile, well, we are foregoing, if not these 3 points, at least we're foregoing these here points, and we're also helping our opponent's monastery inadvertently, so that's also not great. Our opponent's monastery, by the way, is completable. Even though the square is restricted, there's 3 tiles that go over here, so a lot of concessions as a result of this ABBA configuration. Our opponent scores points. Then I think we have to meeple a monastery, and we don't. This move makes some sense. It's trying to block the square, but this is... But you see, when you set up blocking opportunities, you actually have to imagine the blocking tile that you're going to use. And if you look at this very, very carefully, you're going to realize, oh, here's a question for you. If you set up this sort of blocking platform, and this is a question to all of our viewers, how many blocking tiles with, you know, the hints that you can see all the remaining tiles on the left, how many blocking tiles realistically does yellow have to finish up the block, presuming that red doesn't try and defend? I'm going to wait for 30 seconds. So the question is, how many blocking tiles, realistically, how many de facto blocking tiles does yellow have to, you know, to block this here square after creating this platform? All right, I'm going to give you the answer now. The answer is a bit surprising. It is 0. They are 0. Yeah, so you see, okay, so we have one answer, like Miley is saying 4, maybe 5, but I would use the city cap for closing. Exactly, yeah. So city caps don't really count. And you can see there are a lot of blocking tiles like these ones, right? So these are all city caps, but it would be quite unwise for yellow to use city caps for blocking, so yellow is probably going to end up finishing his city anyway. So even though technically you could go here and block with a city cap, yeah, and block with the city caps, then Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But the point is, like, even though we could do that, in practice we won't do that because that's not going to be the best move, and we need this here city over here. Yeah. So Napalm is saying cow and field Doritos, and this is already close to that. There's actually one more tile. So there's the cow, there the field Doritos, and there's the extender. So that makes it 5 tiles. But also think about this. In reality, the extender would fit over here to try and continue this here city. And if anything, with this here square, by the way, we're kind of making it a bit more difficult for us to continue this city. Then what else? The road Doritos, the field Doritos, yeah, we could use them to block. But then also, ideally, we kind of need those tiles to go here and to prevent our opponent from completing the city. But let's say if our opponent completes the city immediately and then we get the field Dorito, then the problem with the field Dorito and the cow is that you go here and block the square. Well, then our opponent takes another Dorito, goes here, and ties us. And ties our city to this blocked square. So there's no way possible how we can block that square without mathematically forget the mathematically, without subjecting ourselves to a block, or at the very least just having the use of the same tile elsewhere. So generally, whenever you create a blocking platform, try to not just make a move which makes the platform, which I mean, this is a good move, like if you want to play like at a 300 level or something. It's because then we probably just don't have enough experience to just go like that deep into thinking about every tile. And Napalm is asking, who are we considering blocking? So we're considering from Yellow's perspective, we're considering blocking this monastery square, right? So the initial question was, how many blocking, like after this platform is created, how many blocking tiles realistically does Yellow have to successfully block this here square fully? And even though technically the answer is 10, because there are 10 blocking tiles that fit in such a way that would permanently block the square, realistically the answer is 0, because, well, that's the question, Apama. Is it worth the effort at all? And the answer is no. So after this platform is created, no matter which blocking tile you draw, placing it here would actually be incorrect, because you endanger your own city more than the value that you get from blocking your opponent's already not fully healthy monastery. And so that's why we typically just don't want to make moves like these. And again, the situation would have been different had the city not been over here. Then probably you might, if you don't want to meeple a monastery, you might want to make a move like this. But this move actually ends up hurting you a little bit more than it does help you. Also, I think a way better move, way more standard move, is to go over here. We control our opponent's city, we get 4 points. If our opponent finishes the city, we get 5. Maybe we get another monastery and we build a cluster over here. So I think a big missed scoring opportunity here from Yellow. Yeah, here's a defense from Red, which is not only a defense, it's actually also an additional attacking tile against this here city. So now our meeple is a bit vulnerable. We of course now have to attack our opponent's city. I think we have to do something like this, prevent them from drawing the 8 remaining city caps that would fit here. This move would prevent 8 out of 13 city caps. This would be quite strong, but you make a move which sort of kind of makes sense. Right? Because you want to expand your field, but then again, you miss some opportunities because your opponent could easily have an extender or a splitter or something that gives them these easy 8 points. And so it turns out that we placed our meeple here, in a like reasonable 6-point field, but in order to develop that field, we had to sacrifice 3 points by not taking this road, sacrifice an additional point by leaving this road for our opponent to grab, so that a 3-point road was available instead of a 2-point road, and also kind of lose tons of equity by not engaging with our opponent's city earlier. Anyway, red continues going here. We attack. At least finally, we don't allow them to continue the city. You see, and red is not shying away from meeple monasteries, because this is what you should do in closed positions when you have the meeples to play. Finally, we are kind of equal on the scoreboard. Your opponent gets a monastery points, and now it's a very interesting strategic decision. You chose to attack the city. Honestly, yeah, why not? I think it's pretty good. It is maybe like a tad counterintuitive because you're helping your opponent get 2 monastery points. But you know what? There are plenty of Doritos remaining. We could fill the square pretty quickly. We could get ourselves a sizable 20-point ruin, and in some cases, we can actually get ourselves a game-winning city. So I see that you're starting to think big here, and I like it. Right, our opponent, of course, is trying to do something about that city. That makes a lot of sense, and here we should be scoring 3 points for the monastery, but you end up doing this, which is, oof, yeah. I mean, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to expand your field, but you can't keep sacrificing points to expand your field. You sacrificed so many points already. So you lost another 3 points, and now that your opponent is... Oh, okay, so they do this. That's interesting. If I were red, I would have gone here straight away to prevent yellow from drawing a curve and expanding the farmer. But anyway, when... black. Yeah, when red eventually does go here, then not only it will limit your field at 6 points, then it would also give them a counter field for 9 and potentially 12 if this here city is completed. But we see that your plan for the game is like getting increasingly bolder, and you just go here and finish your opponent's city just so that you can try and invade a city of your own. I don't know how I feel about this. I do not think I'd do that. I'd probably just maybe drop a divider in my field, and then I would... But you see, yeah, I would have just like, you know, instead of this monastery, just take the 3 points. It gives you green squares so that you can develop the field naturally with city caps, as opposed to like having to crawl all the way through these many squares. And then I would use the divider to go over here, just develop my field naturally, and then simply try to get to Dorito before my opponent does. But anyway, your move does make sense. Like, it's basically you're sort of betting your entire game on the city invasion, and you do try and continue it. You're having yourselves an even bigger city, and your opponent unfortunately gets... the cow, which is the metaphorical dagger, because it blocks you here completely, and yeah, you just end up having so many point sacrifices that it's quite difficult to do something at this point. But let's see how this turns out. I mean, you do keep fighting quite well, kind of getting every little point you can. And now you can see that red successfully blocked the field development. But I think here we still, and also red now has, as a result, a 9-point field in this area which you built for them. this move actually makes quite a lot of sense. I like that you found something that gives you value, and the idea is that we can get a crossroads here, and then if we somehow miraculously complete the city, then we also might get a 6-point road up for grabs as well. I really, really like the idea. The move that I would have played is actually just going over here, trying to set up a 4-point road, as risky as it is, and then trying to open another green square for development of the farm, where we can drop city caps just like these, and maybe even get a monastery tile here, so that we can finally take this castle and make it touch our farmer. Yeah, there's all the lots of blocking and defense. A permanent block from East Tung. That's actually a very, very smart move from Red, realizing that Red is in the lead. So Red can just eliminate even the faintest threats. Now that there's nothing that's left to fit into the square, Red doesn't really care if this meeple survives or not. I hope that you do keep attacking that meeple. Yeah, you know, if I were you, I would probably still go here and try to limit the number of city caps that fit into that square, and then try to build around it a little bit more. But I can see how you might want to wait for a better tile, and we also know that it would not have worked anyway. Yeah, then just only so many options that you have. Red is building up the city. You finally get a little bit of something to score, but again, I think a missed opportunity. You had 3 points over here, and you had 3 points over here, both doable. Opponent building up the city. You build up the city in the north, which makes a lot of sense. Curvy tile for opponents. They actually are quite close to continue finishing their monastery. I'm sure you're going to try and break your opponent's city, even though there's still 2 tiles that left to fit into that square. Oh, look at yellow. Look at East Tung just getting 9 points for the field. Yeah, that actually makes more sense than quick points, as they still have an opportunity to recover their meeple. You get some quick points for compensation. Oh, and East Tung even gets a meeple back. Some quick points for you towards the end. Oh yeah, and quite a fortunate tile for East Tung as well, to score additionally for the farmer. You probably get a 5-point road at the top. And let's see what the point difference is. I think disappointing thing for us is that the point difference is actually not that great. So from Yao Yuchan's perspective, the game was quite winnable, and it started quite well. Made like very reasonable opening moves. And at some point, I think my main takeaway that I would like you to have for this game: try to play a little bit more aggressively, a little bit more greedily. You know, if you see 2 points for the road, try to see, okay, is there any way where I can score 3? Try to look for combo moves. Like there was this opportunity, I think, when you had this move where you could have gone over here and like finished your road indirectly and all of that. So yeah, the difference is 17 points, which actually is quite a lot. But I feel like kind of there were just a lot of those little things that add up, those point sacrifices which keep accumulating and ultimately lead to something what? Yeah, to an advantage which is ultimately insurmountable. And also I noticed that kind of I think you have a tendency to just kind of get the idea and try to just like do everything you can to advance that idea. Whereas sometimes in Carcassonne, it's okay to abandon an idea. Like a certain tile run out comes up and then you just need to shift your thinking sometimes. So for example, I noticed that you involved like a lot of effort into that city, and honestly at some point it actually started making sense. But then maybe some things can be delayed, like this move could be delayed a little bit. Also, like you devoted a lot of effort into expanding this farm, and I like it. I think it's a very good idea to expand this farm. It's just you could ask yourself at what cost. And I felt that the point sacrifices that we made to expand that farm ultimately are greater than the extra gain we would have achieved even if the expansion of the farm were to be successful. And of course, to rub it in, our opponent ends up with a 12-point farm with just 2 moves essentially, whereas we had many moves and ended up only with a 6-point farm. So yeah, just some small, mainly tactical things to think about, but overall, really like laudable effort in many ways, like very strong opening, and also, you know what, like a good attempt to take over the city and try and win. Yeah, that was actually totally worth the try. And I think at some point, now that you have committed yourself, like this move, honestly, that was an honorable try, and so was this. Just ended up not working out in this particular instance, but definitely moves which at the time made quite a lot of sense. It just turned out that once you commit to the city, you sort of don't really have a way of going back, and so you have to risk harder and have to risk harder to try and actually make that work. Anyway, very interesting game. Let's take a very quick break between the third. Eva Zonch is saying, now that I think about it, even Scrabble could be understood as a kind of abstract landscape building game. Yeah, I think so. Like, if you think about each Scrabble tile, you can just think about it as narrow or wide. And it's narrow if it makes few 2-letter words, and it's wide if it makes it's wide if it makes a lot of 2-letter words. And so then you can place the tiles on the board thinking of wide and narrow passages, and depending whether you are leading or whether you're trailing, you want for there to be a certain amount of narrow or wide passages in the map that is helping you, or that is, you know, making it worse for you. And then the widest tile would be M, because I think it makes 10 2-letter words, and the narrowest tile would be V, because it makes 0 2-letter words. Yeah, you can, like, it could be actually, it could be a useful way of conceptualizing things. But also, I noticed when thinking about Carcassonne is that whenever I can find some sort of abstraction from the game, like some sort of generalization, then it typically helps me understand the positions much better, because then I can assess positions quicker if I see that abstractions, that generalization. For example, like we had with the ABBA pattern in this game, which is pretty much the main takeaway for everybody who's watching this that I'd like you to have. Then if you know this sort of stuff, if you can recognize this quickly, it can kind of save you a lot of thinking during the game, because you can sort of, it's a potential heuristic to follow. Anyway, let's take a break for, let's say 5 minutes. And then, 2 minutes is enough. Yeah, I'm gonna see you in 2 minutes. I'm not even gonna bother putting the break sign. Just gonna need to go get some hot liquids for myself, and for my voice. And in the meantime, I'm gonna open our third game, which is our master game, between Helic and Lil Small Small. So the Hong Kong national team captain playing against the reigning champion of Hong Kong, I believe, where Helic is going to be our protagonist in just under 2 minutes. And we're back for our final game of the 3. Helic against Lil Small Small. We're going to be playing this one as Helic with the blue meeples, standard beginning at the start. Gonna invade the road, of course. And unlike the first 2 games, I'll be kind of glossing over a lot of moves because so they're both masters and like their tactics can be very on point. So if there are any particular move that you don't understand, oh, static noise, let me just take care of that. I think we should be fine. Do let me know if we're sorted for that or not. I think we should be fine. Anyway. Yeah, but the point is, like, if there are any particular moves that you want to ask questions about, then just leave them in the chat. I will be only looking at key moments. So this is interesting, this one, the first one. Kind of continuing the Blues road, starting a new city, that makes a lot of sense. There's some arguments to be made that maybe going here could be an idea, and it's a double-edged situation here. If we go here and start a new city like that, then sometimes it can work well if our opponent, let's say, draws a Dorito, because then we're already like pre-invading that city. But if our opponent draws what they drew, and are they going to go for a farmer? I hope they are. Okay, if our opponent draws what they drew, then it becomes a problem, because then with blue's city over here, now blue is going to have 2 squares restricted and potentially a greater chance of having a meeple blocked. As red, though, I would strongly consider dropping a farmer here instead, and this is advised really for master games only, because it's better to be like, you don't want to normally drop a farmer too early, but you know, it works so well, because then if your opponent gets this here city cap, then blue is not going to be able to drop a farmer themselves, and that is, I think, quite useful. Also, this farm actually has surprisingly a lot of potential due to these green squares over here, and I think as red it's also good to drop a farmer here, because if your opponent takes the city cap, then they lose their own city. Anyway, like, red's move is reasonable, just I think the farmer is a tad stronger, because now Helix is going to get a bit creative. I love that move. Going on a farm, but also trying to block a little small city, or at least harass it a little bit. Yeah, so then red goes in a counter farm. We go for the only possible move, which is protecting our city from an imminent block and also getting ourselves a nice, plump, juicy road, which we now successfully continue. I like the decision of not meepling here. Honestly, I think instinctively I probably would have meepled this. Yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe at the start of the game, it's actually better to meeple stuff like this. Yeah, now that I think about this again, because it looks like it's restricting your opponent's city, but not really. Okay, they just need a Dorito, and then a city cap, and then another city cap. It's not really as much time to attack the city that you have, and because we're so close to the start of the game, there are all kinds of tiles still available. Like, later in this game, this sort of restriction might be annoying, but I don't know, I would prefer to just have a blue meeple here already prepared, especially knowing that you're going to get a meeple back here, a meeple back here. Yeah, I think I prefer that move with a blue meeple. Give me 10 seconds. All right, we should be back. So yeah, a monastery for little small, controlling 2 of Helix features, and then of course we immediately gonna get a meeple back, and it's good not to meeple that city just yet. Edward goes here. Now, what do we do? I think, well, we have several options here. We could go here and honestly just try to run away with the completion of our city. And we might even do this and drop a bit of a crazy looking farmer here, trying to invade here. Then there's, of course, the risk of our opponent just going over here and equalizing. Yeah, so maybe, you know what, maybe I just want to keep that. Maybe I just want to keep that intact. I could finish my city, but it's way too early for this. So I think the best move that I can see is just going here. And the alternative is here. No, it's a bit weird. I think I want to do this, start a new city, and also exert some pressure over here. If we're fortunate enough, then we can get a straight line or a curve. and then our opponent is only going to have one tile remaining that fit into the square. We can exploit the dagger asymmetry. There's only one of those guys remaining in the deck after this move, so I think I like this. Yeah, this is too shy. For a master, this is too shy. It's like, this city was completely unthreatened. You have 3 meeples in hand. You have nothing to worry about. Why? Why? It's too shy. Red finishes the city and drops a farmer, which is way, way, way too premature. Now, I know that that farmer will actually end up mattering a great deal, but so many things that needs to happen in order for this farmer to be worth anything. So I think red is going to benefit so much more from having that extra meeple in hand, rather than having a 3-point farm touching only 1 completed city and having only 1 square, and then spending all that extra effort trying to develop it. Now, we know that that effort will be, well, just wait and see. Anyway, a great tile for little small, and now suddenly this farmer now doesn't look so bad because it's going to connect to all these completed cities. This also brings us back to maybe blue wanting to have a meeple over here, because what ends up happening is that red does have a lot of threat of completing the city, but of course we need to make a normal move. We can see that Helic goes for the farm. Red gets a meeple back, which makes some sense. Blue is trying to block red. This move surprised me. I think as red, I don't really like it. As red, I would have preferred either going here. Actually, I would really prefer going here and taking off the empty city cap, and also posing just a significant risk to this here square. Yeah, it was definitely stronger. The second strongest move was going over here, finishing that city, and setting up a 6-point monastery that would sort out the fate of this farmer. Instead, I think red is becoming a bit too shy, a bit too scared, and goes over here. The purpose of this move is not so much to threaten the completion of the city. There's still an invasion platform against this here city. It's just to prevent the city from getting blocked. If Helic gets a Dorito tile, then suddenly this here square is exceptionally vulnerable, with only 1 starting tile available that's fit over here, only 1 of these guys. But from red's perspective, I think also from any master's perspective, the way you have to think about this, try to think as little as possible of situations in isolation, but try to think of the game holistically. Okay, you can identify a situation. My city is going to get blocked, perhaps. But the question you can ask yourself, how does this contribute to my winning chances? Like, what are my chances of winning in this scenario, in that scenario? And from what I see, maybe this here city we don't necessarily have to finish. It's already worth 5 points. It's going to be worth at least 6 after our opponent's block. Our opponent's going to get an additional tile to probably get the full block over here. Then there's plenty of garbage tiles that we can use to expand our city for like upwards of 10 points. So having 1 blocked city meeple on a board which is not super close, not super open, kind of somewhere in the medium, because there are 2 sides of the board. There's not 1 big field, there are 2 potential fields. So it's just generally more acceptable to have block meeples, especially if you can get more points. Yeah, so I think it wasn't really just worth doing. I think it's the 3rd best move. And the first best was going over here, because it takes points, and sometimes if your opponent blocks us here, that's okay, because we go here with the Dorito tile, and we go here, and we block this square, and we block not only Blue's road for 3 points, but also Blue's farmer just for 6. And even though Blue's farmer can technically penetrate over here, the road will be completely lost. There'll be extra effort that needs to be spent on the field invasion, and our city plus our scoreboard lead that we're going to get from this here city perhaps might even outscore our opponent's farm. So I would say this move just gives us more different possibilities to win this game, whereas this move is saying, me want try big city. completable city. So it just seems to be a little bit inflexible. Helik tries to block. Again, yeah, this move is understandable and you sort of have to do it, but just because we're short on dagger tiles, we don't want our opponent to block. But there's really not that much better to do with the curve, but I feel that, I don't know, maybe even just going over here, building the monastery is fine. But anyway, like once you've invested this here tile here, it kind of makes sense to go here and continue it. So this is often where one suboptimal move leads to having to play another. But yeah, in general, what I'm trying to say is that don't get too emotionally attached to completing cities. Like, think about winning the game. And then just think about all the different ways how you can still do that. Fantastic tile for you, by the way. You're getting a meeple back. Helik continuing their road. Wait, am I switching? Am I switching sides? No, Helik is we. Anyway, finally you get to finally red gets to clean off a city cap. Blue makes a slight imprecision. This move is okay, but I see no reason why not go here. Like, why not make a move which directly adds you a point, as opposed to indirectly adds you a point? I don't know. It's just a mild imprecision here. Interesting tile here for red. No quick point scoring opportunities, so red just chooses to... Oh, go here. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't think it's good. No, that's not how we should do things. I think as red, actually where this tile belongs is just probably here. Just here, right? And then we just try to make this city into more of a long-term project with a bunch of Doritos. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of this move, it impedes the development of your monastery a little bit, you know, because you need a city tile here, a city tile here, whereas... ideally, you want to be building around here with road tile first, and then finishing this here square last, if you finish this here square at all. Also, another thing that I'm not a fan of, there are some scenarios how your opponent gets a Dorito tile and goes here, and then cuts off this square. Maybe I'm a bit... No, I'm probably not too concerned about this, but you know what? There are some scenarios how you want to actually... gets into the fields, into the secondary field through here rather than through here. But, you know, it's whatever. Okay. Now, Helix Monastery. This is a question of more tactics, I guess, and just board vision. I see 3 monastery spots. Well, 4 technically, but really 3 realistic spots, and you tell me which one you prefer. I think all of them 3 are reasonable, but I'm just kind of very curious of hearing your thoughts. I'm not even going to point out... No, actually, I'm going to point out what they are. Now, I'm going to even say more monastery spots. This is A. This is B. This is C. And this is D. So these are all the monastery spots with that score you 4 points or above. And 2 of them score 6 points, 2 of them score fewer than 6, but control your opponent's city. So just curious to hear from you. All right, so I see Agatha saying C, Miley is saying C or D. Well, there can be arguments for all of them. When I was analyzing this game before the stream by myself, I thought I was going to recommend C kind of unequivocally, just because, you know, it prepares this spot. Honestly, C looks pretty powerful. It looks really, really powerful. It's 6 points. It prepares yet another monastery. It does have the disadvantage of potentially uniting all the fields. But, this could benefit either side. And in fact, we are the ones who have the meeple majority at the moment, so maybe it could benefit us. D, initially, I don't really like. Even though this farmer is most likely, either through here or through here, is going to touch this here field. Touch this here field, I still want red to be the one that places the tile here. So there is an argument for sure for trying to maybe take away this spot so that your opponent does not use it, but still, like, it's a bit difficult to explain. I think this is not wrong necessarily, but I prefer probably any other spot. So now between A and B, the advantages of B is that it's kind of like touching the city more directly, but honestly, there is not really a good reason to sacrifice an extra point. So in this position, actually, I really like A. I really like going here for 5 points fewer, but then we can get a road tile to try and start playing against the city and so on. I think A is really quite strong. So my priorities are going to be A, C, and then D and B are kind of very, very tied. So again, this was A, B, D, C. So A, C, D, B, I think that would be my personal preference. A is sort of the most small ball of all the approaches, and it does control your opponent's city, so this is a very nice benefit to it. C, it's just something that's strategically very, very different. It's really going for, first of all, a completable monastery, and then this here additional monastery guy over here. I think it is quite strong. And D, I think, is simply a slightly weaker version of C, because it's the same number of points, except that it takes greater effort to build up this here monastery, because at least with this monastery you have, this road monastery setup, which is quite powerful. And here I think you just need to like place 3 regular tiles for which you might not even have time for. Yeah, but like all placements just lead to strategically very, very different boards. So D was Helix choice. Yeah, then a little small invades the main farm. And you see, by the way, like, there is an advantage of having a monastery here, right? Because then if you control this here city, you do feel a little bit more secure, don't you? Anyway, Helix now finishing a road, and I am not a fan of this move. I don't like any of that. First of all, I think if I'm blue, now that my opponent has invested into a farm, I think I'm not in a hurry to finish my road. I want to finish it with a crossroad. I want to cut off this here farm from this here farmer, and this could be my game-winning strategy here. I can still do it in theory. I can still kind of get a Dorito tile and go over here, but you know what? There's still 2 road monasteries in the deck, and I'm really worried that red could get one of those and suddenly get a majority on the field from this precariously placed 3-point farmer touching 1 city on 1 square. It could potentially turn into something game-winning, and I would hate that. Second, as Helix, I'm not sure Helix, like, meepling this seems to be just so excessive. This square is kind of vulnerable because we're very short on daggers. Only 1 dagger is remaining. So if red goes here and here, you could lose a meeple just like that. And second, like, you can leave this city cap alone because your opponent has several other places where they need city tiles. So I wouldn't be too worried of leaving those points open. But then also, like, I wouldn't finish this road in the first place. I would just try and wait for a crossroads. All right? And also, but again, I guess, but you do get something out of it, because I think Edward kind of not recognizing that we're running short on these here tiles. And let's say if Helic now gets a curve, then suddenly there's only one curve that's remaining in the square, and this meeple can risk being trapped. Sure, a road monastery could fit here, but red already needs a road monastery over here, so this could become quite dangerous. So I think as red, I connect to the farm first, and then I deal with the blocking. So let's see what happens later. Yeah, that's also quite interesting that you choose to defend. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you chose to defend your meeple. Well, yeah, it's also like a predicament that just little small needs the same caps in different places, right? And so again, like Red would have loved to use this here city cap to connect to the field, but he can't because he has to use it here. But now you can't afford to finish your city. Now you actually have to go and attack your opponent, which of course is correct. So just, it's a very dynamic position now. Both players are creating one move threats that the other players need to respond. Also note that blue, I think, could have gone over here as well to try and block this here, a road monastery spot, but of course dealing with the city threat is way more important. Give me 10 seconds. And we're back. Yeah, a very reasonable block, a scoring tile for a Helic. What else do we have? Just building up the monastery. Helic finally gets a tile to equalize the city threat. A blocking attempt from red, a very good defense from blue, because I need to point out there are not that many tiles that fit over here from blocking, and here definitely having the 2-point sacrifice is worth it if you ask me. Also brilliant move here from little small. The purpose of this move is to limit this square and not allow a Dorito tile that would in turn kill off this square and deny this here 9-point farmer entry through a road monastery. Now, the field on the right, the 9-point field on the right, is already pretty good as it is. So you might not deem it necessary to protect the invasion, but because red already has the majority on this field, potentially, we assume that red is going to enter here, then having a field with 3 versus 2 meeples can be, I mean, quite advantageous, because then Helic will need to spend 1 more meeple to equalize, and then a red would have 2 meeples versus 1 for a long stretch of the game, which a red could in turn leverage. Here, I hope that... Oh, okay, so this is a way more committal move. So now red is actually trying to overfarm. Yeah, I forgot about this, and win the game with a 4-2 majority. I don't know how I feel about that. Because, you know, they are... Well, in theory, they're blocking opportunities. Like, Helic could go here with a straight line, But then little small could get a curve and a road monastery and invade like this. Yeah, maybe that's worth doing, but it feels that at this stage it's a little bit too committal. The way I try to win the game as a red is maybe just with point scoring for now. I'm gonna get a 10-point city over here. I have a 9-point field that I enjoy. I can try to finish this monastery. Like, I probably want to still play small ball unless I absolutely have to. But sure. And this is a good move from Helig. I really like it. Now it's quite annoying for red because red needs a monastery here. And red also needs a monastery here as well. So yeah, plenty of tiles that little small have to draw. But honestly, as Helig, I would consider other moves as well. I would consider going here perhaps and starting a new city and maybe even trying to sneak a monastery block. What if we get a splitter tile? We get our 6-point meeple back. This here square is going to be blocked, and we're going to try and threaten something over there. Our opponent has only 1 meeple, so it's very difficult for them to invade cities, and we might get away with a game-winning 12-pointer or something. Now our opponent gets quick points. Yeah, that's a good move from Helig, trying to create inconveniences not only for this invasion square, but also for this city. And of course, little small immediately defends, leaving a monastery that goes over here. What does Helig do? Yeah, invading the city here makes some sense. I think I might have preferred keeping a meeple in hand. Maybe I would have gone like here instead, just trying to block everything. But I think at this point, Helig feels confident enough that they're gonna have enough meeples to win, and so they just want to prevent the outside scenario of this red city being completed. Red is preventing their monastery from being completed, which is not great, but at least blue gets a meeple back. Not many options for red, but honestly, I think red could have done a little bit better with this tile. Red could have... what could have red done? Well, at least... Oh, give me 5 seconds. At least, like, do this, or, or do this. Just, like, restrict your opponent's monastery somehow, I think. Rather than just doing a simple discard. Yeah, this move is quite strong. It is trying to build up blue's city, whilst also threatening red's monastery, but red does successfully complete the monastery, and Helig gets the first of the 2 road monasteries, which should ensure dominance on the field, right? So that's an excellent way to choose where to score 2 points, because then it makes it a little bit difficult for red to go over here. But then red is not going to go here, red is going to go in the other way, and so it turns out that this farmer was actually ultimately justified, because finally red has a 3 versus 2 majority on the field. Red has lots of points on the scoreboard, 9 points on the scoreboard, and blue is now suffering quite a lot. So now an excellent move by blue, though, scoring 2 points, creating not 1 but 2 potential field attacking platforms through the curve here or through the curvy tile over here. Red is not going to be able to successfully eliminate those platforms, but red is going to be successful in eliminating another threat, equalizing blue's city, and now creating another threat of his own. Red could end up winning the city here with a splitter tile, and they would score 14 against Helix 6. Helix, in the meantime, of course, has to invade the field, take advantage of one of the farming platforms, because he has to equalize quite desperately. But this is very, very strong. This is just really a very nice two-move combo that you first of all create the field invasion platform and then you use it instantly. Now from Edward, we have a couple of things that we can do. Option 1, we just score 2 points over here. And this can be quite a decent move, because then we, well, first of all, get 2 points. Second, we make it harder. I'm not sure if we make it harder, actually, but yeah, never mind about this. And we're also setting up a curve that only we can score for. If our opponent gets a curve, they connect to the field. But if we get the curve, we score 3 additional points, which could end up mattering, perhaps. We could also just take 1 point extra and let our opponent into the field just for the sake of getting that extra point. I wouldn't do that. I do not think that extra point is going to do too much for our win probability. We could also do something nastier. We could also go here. Oh, no, sorry, let me just, I'm using the wrong tile here. As red, we could go here and put a road meeple like that. And then if our opponent gets a curve, then they invade the field, but they also give us a 6-point road meeple back. So I would seriously consider this. But then the disadvantage is that we would have to play without a meeple for too long. And maybe Helix can just try find a different field invasion platform somewhere, or, you know, keep scoring elsewhere and then only on the final tile go here, give us a meeple back that we actually can't use anymore. So yeah, so these 2 points also make sense. I would have preferred the 2 points in that other location so that we can set up the road. Helix getting a city, but I think this is a mistake. Scoring points is fine. You want to get that 1 monastery point. But why not just turn this tile like this? And then if you get a city cap, you get an additional monastery points for compensation. I think this would have been a little bit stronger. And also, we have to think about, I know that, like, psychologically it is not the most pleasant thing to do, because you don't want to be dropping city caps in the field that belongs to your opponent. But then you also got to remember that if the field is going to belong to your opponent, then you're going to lose the game anyway. So you just have to assume that this field is going to be shared. Yes, I think a slight imprecision, because, well, it just leads to this, like, our opponent scores 4 points out of nowhere, and we've effectively donated them a point when we didn't have to. This move is strong. I really, really like it. It's just brilliant. So this move does the following. It's saying, you know what? Now that my opponent has drawn through crossroads, I have only 1 curvy tile remaining to connect to the field. Yeah, well, this here tile and this here field connect. And there's just no way how am I winning without that tile, because I don't have an opportunity to both score and then open additional platforms. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to set up a way to maximally benefit from the curve if I get it, because, you know, if I don't get the curve, I lose anyway. So Helix is setting up a 6-point road upon the completion of the connection, which is stronger than just scoring 2 points in a random place, I think. Then I hope that Edgar goes on the left. Yes, that move makes a lot of sense. It actually creates a significant threat of a city splitter, because let's say if Helik gets a Dorito and connects over here, then with the city splitter, red, instead of separating these here two cities, now can use it to separate these here two cities and gain a 10-pointer here plus a 3-pointer on the farm, which should make Edward win the game for sure. But it is Helik who gets the splitter and uses it to just get 1 additional point, which is really all that you can hope for. Very wise move from Little Small Small. It was super important to spend the meeple there. First of all, it's just 6 points, and 6 points is a lot of points. And second, it kind of now forces Helik to give a meeple back to Little Small Small, and that's the reason why Helik maybe doesn't want to do it. Actually, yeah. Because if we go here, we equalize our 2-point city with a 6-point city of our opponent. So this is 2 extra points. But then if we go here, we take just 2 clean points, but we don't give a meeple back to our opponent. Ooh, this is interesting. This is very, very interesting. I think here as Helik, I want to probably calculate this endgame. And the main thing I need to decide is like how many, like what kind of winning chances do we even have? Let's see, so we're minus 13 and plus 1 over here, minus 4 over here, that's minus 3, minus 7 over here, plus 7 over here in the monastery, so we're equal. So we're just minus 13. So all we need to do is draw the road here. That is going to be 6 points. And then we're going to need to score 8 points somewhere else in order to win. Let's say we score 2 points. Let's say we score 2 points here. We scored 2 points here. We need to score 6 points somewhere else. But the maximum that I can see is 5 here, right? And this is presuming the best draw. This is presuming drawing the curve immediately. I think we're toast either way. Could place it near the city cap. Oh yeah, the Doritos are out. So the way this app works is that in the remaining tiles, it also shows the tile that you currently have in hand. So our remaining tiles are 2 monasteries, curve, and a straight line. And the presumption is that we need to draw the curve right now. Plus, we also need to draw the 2 monasteries. So that would be what, at 25, and then wait. So 1 in 4 times 2 in 3. This is 2 in 12, which is 1 in 6 chance of winning. Okay. I should have done this. I should have done this faster. Okay, I really can't believe this. I think I really want to redo the calculation. Okay, so minus 3. So minus 13. This is plus 1. This is minus 4, so this is minus 3. Ah, so this is even more minuses, right? Because it's like minus 9. Yeah, we're really, really toast here, right? think there's probably not all that much that we can do. So I can understand. Yeah, and if we go here, then we just give our opponents. Yeah, we make more points, which would give our opponent additional scoring power. Like, if they just get a straight line, they can score 3 points, and that, I think, is already enough to put them over the edge. I might have calculated the points imprecisely somewhere, but it's true that we're just toast. And we do get the best possible tile for 6 points. And now, from little, small, small, there is the piece of beauty and finesse that they're going to offer. They're actually going to calculate everything and block the 5 points -3 spot. So we have to be fine with a 4 point -3 spot instead. And I think as a result, Helix loses this, what, by 3 or something? Even with the best possible run-out of tiles. Yep, 3 points is the answer. So, what do we make of this? I think from Helix's perspective, just like, it's always a bunch of small things which could have been changed a little bit. I felt like the run-out was decent enough for Blue to win this. I mean, Blue was the starting player. I think Blue conceded control over the board structure a little bit too willingly. I think the way Blue built up this road, because honestly, this farmer at the start was so far from the main field, and the fact that it managed to march all the way around over here, just all the way around over here to meet these guys, like, it looks almost ridiculous. But this is what ended up happening. Yeah, and I think this is the one kind of strategic moment of the game where sometimes you want to get meeples back, but if you have meeples in hand, you can wait for crossroads. You don't have to finish your road with a curve necessarily, and then the game would have been just a bit more controlled. Another move that I can think of, there was a way to prevent our opponent from finishing a monastery. And they built up the monster for 9 points, and then they got this here meeple. It kind of felt that Red got away with a little bit too much. And then Red ended up just going all in on the fields. And even though they ultimately didn't get the field, it required so much attention from Helix that even with field equality, Red prevailed by 3 points. Yeah, incredibly interesting game, actually. And one with, many decisions, many options, like with the monastery placement, like with the choice of board structure, the choice of whether or not to drop farmers. Also from Red's perspective, like all these decisions, whether to save his own cities or block his opponents. A lot of decision-making from both sides, and like a lot of moves which are really not obvious and have all kinds of unintended consequences. Alrighty, well, we're going to wrap up here. If you still have any comments or questions about this game, you can, when you're watching this video, not live, but when it's a stream archive, you can just leave a regular comment. I will try to monitor those. Hi, Elena Corina. Very nice to hear that. yeah, if any of y'all wish to have your games analyzed on streams, you can contact me either on Board Game Arena or through the channel emails address, which you can just find on the channel description. And I'll try to keep those quite regular. I'm planning one next week. This weekend there's going to be a different stream. I will try to cover one of the upcoming summer challenges. This is just a new initiative by Carcassonne GG of rated matches in the off season. I'm gonna pick something interesting from here, possibly on Sunday, and then get back to you with that. Yeah, so there's gonna be some things to look out for. And in case you want to not miss any future streams on videos, make sure to subscribe for more competitive Carcassonne content like this. It would mean a lot, and it would also make sure that you don't miss anything. And meeple the like button as well for the algorithm. That would be quite helpful. I'm gonna see you over the weekend. Until then, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.